Chile yields back. I'll now go to Mr. Weber for 5 minutes.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate y'all being here. I had to go to a Science, Space, and Technology Committee, so I didn't get to hear a lot of your testimony, but I heard a lot of something just now, so I am up to speed, I suspect one could say. Mr. Fisher, in his testimony before this committee in July, FERC Commissioner Mark Christie opened by stressing quote, the United States is heading for potentially catastrophic consequences in terms of the reliability of our electric power system, end quote. In part because dispatchable power plants are retiring too quickly. A few days later, we talked about PJM. The largest grid operator in the nation announced that prices in its most recent capacity auction rose substantially. And Mr. Griffin talked about that. PJM noted that one of the drivers of the higher prices, and I'm quoting now, is, quote, decreased supply offers into the auction due mainly to generator retirements, end quote. At a time when policymakers and regulators should be emphasizing actions to sustain existing power plants, the EPA continues rulemakings likely to shut down generation critical to the very electric reliability we are seeking. In April, the EPA announced an unworkable, unrealistic fuel rule, maybe I'll do it that way, focused on existing coal and new natural gas plants. And in July, the administration announced that the EPA will release a proposed rule in December cracking down on carbon emissions from existing plants. You can't make this stuff up. So my question to you is, what do you anticipate will be the net result from the continued retirement of dispatchable power plants like natural gas generation at a time when increased demand for electricity is going to require significantly more generation? What impacts do you believe that those actions I described will have on ratepayers?
Increased prices, reduced reliability, for certain.
Would you say 20%, 30%? We really don't know how bad it will be, do we?
Well, the PJM capacity price increase was eightfold.
Right.
I'm not sure if that's going to happen across the board, but that is a signal. That's a sign of the times.
Absolutely. Ms. Pryor, I'm going to jump over to you. I appreciate some of your comments. I did get a chance to read through some of your information. I owned an air conditioning company for 35 years. We dealt with power requirements all the time. Somebody's building a house, we knew exactly how much electricity that house was needed. When y'all are talking about the EPA and the federal government requiring that you redo a whole house, I think, Mr. Higgins, you had that conversation, and it would even be paid for the whole house and all the appliances. Do you have any idea what a complete change-out air conditioning system costs? It's unbelievable, and you're talking about all new appliances and air conditioning system. Somebody's got to pay that dime, and it's the taxpayers who aren't getting their houses upgraded. Ms. Pryor, coming back to you, do you know any farmers who use electric trucks for farming?
I don't personally know of any. We do have one small college near us that I know has a tractor that is, and they're trying to give it a good try, and it's not able to do everything that they.
Well, when you need to get all that you can out of a diesel tractor or diesel 18-wheeler, you don't have time to stop and recharge the battery. You just don't. Not only that, but as you know, the battery adds to the weight factor on these trucks, and you can't carry as many goods as otherwise you would have. From your experience and in your opinion, Ms. Pryor, sticking with you, do you believe that American consumers are aware that the increased price of food in grocery stores, I'm going to do this in two parts, corresponds with higher energy costs, which you have to absorb? And the second part is, most kids thinks that, you know, apples and meat and milk comes from H-E-B in Texas. Well, it doesn't. You think it's going to increase your cost?
Oh, it definitely increases my cost. Was your first part of the question, did I think people realize?
Do you think Americans are really aware of that?
No, not at all. I do a lot to try to advocate for agriculture and just education, and people don't realize what goes into it. So even, let's say, strawberries, the plastic clamshell that they're in, the plastic costs more because of petroleum.
Right.
The cereal box, the plastic bag that's inside, everything is increased. All those input costs are increased, and that's one of the
war
big
on
drivers
fossil
behind it.
fuels has hurt us because, for one thing, we're not teaching young people exactly how badly we need petroleum products just in every facet of our life. Mr. Onwook, am I saying that right?
Onwuka.
Okay, I'm coming to you. Yes or no? Do you believe that the average American can afford to pay $9,000, and that's low? I was in that business, to retrofit their homes with climate-friendly appliances. You believe the average homeowner can afford that?
No, they can't.
Yes or no, do you believe that it's acceptable that 37% of households reported difficulty paying for usual household expenses, including utility bills? Is that acceptable?
No.
And we're only going to make it worse. Mr. Chairman, I could go on, but I'm out of time. I yield back.
Gentleman yields back. I now go to Dr. Schreier for 5 minutes.